I'm a self-promoter.
I'm a very good-looking guy. I'm an idle son. I'm a brainless idiot. I'm a psychopath. I'm unstable. I'm a curmudgeon. I'm an animal. I'm a tyrant. I'm a physical peon. I'm a man. I'm confident with women. I'm one of the great Casanovas of all time. I'm a hypocrite. I'm a coward. I'm a nutshell.
Welcome to Termine Crashes Out, an NBA podcast with Justin Termine. Brought to you by DC, LA. And now it's time for Termine to Crash Out.
Well, they're excited in San Antonio. They advanced. They're not so happy in Boston. Had an opportunity to advance. They didn't. And really, the Western Conference playoff picture starting to take shape. The Thunder advancing last night. San Antonio was able to do so just a couple of minutes ago as we're taping this live, immediately following the final buzzer as they get the blowout win over the Portland Trailblazers. And both appear headed on a collision course now, right, for the Western Conference Finals. So the Western Conference starting to take shape. I think you can feel pretty confident with the direction that that's going in. Meanwhile, you have the Eastern Conference, which now is an absolute mess, right? The Knicks win tonight, so they're up 3-2 over Atlanta. The Celtics lose, but they're still up 3-2 over Philadelphia. So two teams there that are in 3-2 situations, but they feel very different about how they got there. Then you have the Cavaliers and the Raptors. They're all knotted up at 2, and then the Magic have the biggest cushion here as they have the 3-1 series lead right now over Detroit, but nothing certain with them because they're dealing with the Franz Wagner calf injury. So right now, the Western Conference looks pretty clear-cut, while every series in the East still a little bit up in the air. So here's what I want to do today. We'll run through the Eastern Conference first, and then we'll close with the game that just finished, which was San Antonio in Portland. And why don't we start in Boston for two different reasons. One, I was at the Celtics-Sixers game, so we can start there. And then two, that one was the biggest surprise, right? I think everybody assumed that San Antonio was going to close it out. I think everybody assumed that the Knicks were going to win at home to go back to Atlanta up 3-2. But I think people didn't expect Philadelphia to win, and they win anyway. And after what we saw in Game 4, how could you? I mean, Boston blew them out on the road in Philadelphia. But Joel Embiid has a different idea here later tonight in the 113-97 win for Philadelphia. And again, he certainly tonight looked a lot better than he did in Game 4. 33 points, 4 rebounds, 8 assists, 12 of 23 from the field. His three-point shot was not there, and I really felt one of the turning points of this game, at least from Philadelphia offensively. Defensively, Boston couldn't hit a shot in the fourth quarter, 11 points, season worst. But I thought really the game changed when Embiid decided he was going to go away from the three, because it seemed like he was looking to shoot from the outside to start the game. It wasn't falling. He was 0 for 5. Then he got his rear end down into the paint, and nobody from Boston could stop him. So he was really bailing him out with all the threes. Once he decided to go inside, it was all over for Boston in being able to stop him. And I'll say this with Embiid, because he's got such a conflicted reputation and legacy and career, is that it really is amazing how good this guy is, that he can miss 17 consecutive days coming off an appendectomy surgery and still go out there and do what he did tonight. And he looked like MVP Joel Embiid. Had 17 days off because of the appendectomy. I'm assuming he's not working out at a high level. He comes back. He plays 30-plus minutes in the first game. Put up good statistics in the first game, but I think he hurt the team because of his inability to move his feet defensively like he used to be able to do. Now he's more of a liability. And then offensively, I think they took too much away from Maxey in the fourth game. Today, they incorporated Maxey early, and then Embiid, once he decided to stop shooting threes and go down low, looked like the Joel Embiid of his MVP days. And do you know how hard it is in any field? Like, pick whatever field you're doing. You take some time off. just to get back in the flow, it's not easy. I know when I take my vacations, if I haven't been behind a microphone for a little while, it feels a little bit weird. This guy takes all this time off, constantly missing time because of injuries. Then he steps in and he dominates at a high level in a postseason scenario on the road against a team that's supposed to be much better. Especially since he can barely jump and he can dominate a game like that. Tells you how skilled he is, and it really is too bad that Embiid's career has been sidetracked by the injuries, because if not, and I'm not saying this would be the 90s with Shaq and David Robinson and Patrick Ewing and Hakeem Olajuwon. I'm not saying, but it'd be pretty darn close. I mean, you make the argument, this would be the golden age at the center position, or borderline golden age at the center position, if Embiid can consistently stay healthy. Because you'd have the three best players in the sport, all centers. That's how I feel. I feel like the three most talented players are all centers in the sport if Embiid is healthy and clicking on all cylinders. It's Jokic, it's Wembanyama, and it's Embiid. Because you have Jokic, who is a historically great and already a top 5, top 6 center of all time, and the best offensive center of all time. Then you have Wembanyama, who's got the ability to be the best defensive player of all time. And then you have Embiid, who's got a little bit of a mix of both. Not quite Jokic offensively, but still amazing, and not quite Wemby defensively, but still amazing. So he's got the split, the combination of both, where he's, on his game, he's one of the great defensive players, and on his game, he's one of the great offensive players. You'd have the three best players, all centers. Hence, he's just never healthy. And that's what makes it too bad and takes away from it. And that's why Boston better be careful, because Embiid is so good that Embiid can beat the Celtics. Embiid could beat any team in one series. All he's got to do, what he did tonight, he's got to do it in Game 6. He's got to do it in Game 7. Philadelphia advances. The issue with Embiid, the frustrating part with Embiid, is there's just no way he can do it against Boston in Game 5, Game 6, Game 7. Then he can go face New York in all likelihood, do that for 5, 6, or 7 games, then go to the conference finals, do that for 5, 6, or 7 games, and do the same thing in the NBA finals. The road is too rough on a guy like that's body, because there's no load management. You want to win, you got to play, the stars. Like you see Tatum and Brown tonight, both playing 40-plus minutes. That's what it takes to win in the postseason, is not only do your best players have to play well, they have to stay healthy, they have to play big minutes. Embiid's body just can't take that. So in this situation against Boston, they better be concerned. But moving forward, second round, third round NBA finals, unfortunately, I don't think Embiid can stay healthy enough to do that. The grind is just too difficult on his body. But in regards to talent, as talented as anybody in the sport, and the idea he can take this amount of time off and then immediately dominate again and be the best player on the floor when he's going up against a guy in Jaylen Brown who's supposed to be a top 5 MVP candidate this year, a guy in Tyrese Maxey who I voted for an all-NBA team, a guy in Jason Tatum who's come back, looks like he hasn't missed a beat, has been one of the, up until tonight, 5 best players, 3 best players in the postseason. And tonight, Embiid was the best player on the floor. So, give him credit. Give him credit. And Philadelphia did a much better job tonight of getting Maxey involved early, because I thought that was the biggest issue last game. I thought Embiid had a negative impact on Maxey's aggression, on him looking for the shot. Even Maxey said it afterwards, but tonight Maxey had 25 points, 10 rebounds, 5 assists on 18 shots. So he was looking for his shot tonight. And Quentin Grimes was tremendous off the bench, especially in the second half, especially in the fourth quarter. He was amazing. And again, that goes back to another just tremendous Nico Harrison trade. So Philadelphia's got to feel really good. I know historically they're horrible against Boston. I think Embiid's record right now is 4-13 in games against the Celtics. But there's varying reasons for that. And again, we've seen Embiid dominate Boston one night, then the next night come back and completely fade. But if he plays like he did tonight, they've got a shot. Especially if Boston's going to shoot like they did. Because really the 3-point differential in the first couple of games indicated who is going to win. Boston was horrific behind the 3-point line tonight. And that's, the same old MO that they've had. And it's really hard to take Boston seriously as a title contender, right? When Boston consistently, and this has been what Boston has essentially, like they are the most frustrating team in the NBA in that, they rely so much on the three. So if they're not falling, they're going to lose. Then they'll have a home game where they come off a 20-point victory and they'll lose the next game. I saw their record today since 2022. So since they started going to the NBA Finals with this group, right? They lose to the Warriors. Dating all the way back to then, they've lost 16 playoff home games. They are not the 1986 Celtics, who, right, went 50-1 on their way to a championship that year. They lost one regular season game at home to Portland, I think in December, early December. Went 50-1 at home. This current iteration of the Celtics has lost 16 postseason games at home alone. At home alone since 2022. You can't win championships that way. It's not going to happen. The road was a little bit easier in 2024 when you won the title. That's not going to happen this year if you're not going to win at home. Because you're not going on the road to MSG, a difficult place to win, and winning multiple games there. You can't count on that. So they got some serious issues. And, the two guys in particular I think that need to be singled out is one, Jaylen Brown, two, Derrick White. Well, two, the lesser of the concerns here with Jaylen Brown. And I wouldn't even say that it's a concern with Jaylen Brown. I would just say if Jaylen Brown's going to get all the MVP hype, Isaiah Thomas was on my show, the Hall of Famer Today with Eddie Johnson and myself, on Sirius XM NBA Radio. He said Jaylen Brown should be first or second in the MVP conversation. I didn't have him in my top 5, okay? I went Jokic, SGA, Wemby, Luka, and Cade. But the point is, if he's going to get that hype, he's got to be slammed like Cade when Cade's down 3-1. He's got to be criticized if he's not performing like Jokic, if Jokic is struggling. You're going to be a top 5 MVP guy. A couple of days ago, Brunson's taking it. Karl Anthony Towns has taken the criticism. And right now, in this postseason, Jaylen Brown is going to get top 5 MVP votes, maybe finish first team All-NBA, definitely finish in one of the top 2 All-NBA teams. He has not even been the best Celtic. That's been Jason Tatum, who's coming off a torn Achilles. Tatum has been the best Celtic so far this postseason for Boston. Brown tonight, 22 points, 9 of 23. A couple more offensive fouls. He leads the league in offensive fouls. A couple of missed layups. He was forcing things, a little bit lazy on defense. And again, he's getting credit for this year. He's going to accrue all these votes for awards. But if you're going to do that, you get to the postseason, you have to play better, especially in a closeout game at home, because now you have to go on a road for Game 6, and then in Game 7, anything can happen. So he needs to be held to that standard, Jaylen Brown. Then, Boston's biggest issue by far, okay? Celtics' biggest issue by far is Derrick White. This is now, what is it? DEFCON 5 is the biggest concern, or is it DEFCON 1? Either way, it's the DEFCON that's the most concerning. Despite his shooting issues, and I've said this all year long, I thought he had a good season. Not a great season, but not a bad season. I thought he had a good season. Analytically speaking, highest plus minus on the team, huge positive impact. Does everything well defensively. I had him on first team all defense. One of the best shot blocking guards of all time, arguably the best. Makes the right play every time. But the shooting now has become a massive concern. It was bad during the regular season. It's worse now. To me, it is the biggest storyline that the Celtics are facing. It might be the biggest storyline in the Eastern Conference. It might be the biggest storyline in the Eastern Conference. From a negative perspective, right? Like, oh, Embiid can't stay healthy. That's a negative one. Oh, James Harden disappears all the time. Cade has these turnovers. Detroit's inexperience. Like all these different storylines. Mikal Bridges is useless. Biggest storyline might be Derrick White because that'll prevent them from winning a championship. Even if Boston wins this series 6 or 7 games, advances to the next round, the way the Knicks are starting to look, they will not beat the Knicks next round, and they certainly want to win a championship if this is how Derrick White's going to shoot. He's basically, said this to one of my buddies earlier today on a text thread, he has basically turned into Chuck Knobloch. I think it's mental. He even looks hesitant. Got wide open threes. Derrick White's got to hit him. His postseason numbers right now, 8.2 points, 30% from the field, 21% from three. That's what he's doing right now. And despite how good he is defensively, he's become almost unplayable. Think about that. When they won the title a couple of years ago, I think they played 19 postseason games. He averaged over 16 points. Derrick White did. Shot 46% from the field, 40% from three. Right now, those numbers have dropped from 16 points to 8.2, from 46 from the field to 30% from the field, from 40% from three to 21% from three. So that is the biggest story right now for the Celtics, certainly, maybe in the Eastern Conference, since Boston's the favorite to come out of the Eastern Conference. I thought the numbers would improve once Tatum got back and his role in the offense differed. Not the case. So I don't know what's going to happen with Boston game 6, game 7, but even if they win, it won't matter. If this is how they're going to, this is the shooting they're going to get from Derrick White. But congratulations to Philadelphia. Embiid was spectacular. Best player on the floor. If you could guarantee was healthy, to me, still the best player in the Eastern Conference. Problem is he's not healthy. I mean, he even went down today with a knee injury in the fourth quarter. He was in agonizing pain. He went to the bench. Andre Drummond happened to come in and knocks down a three from the corner. Andre Drummond might be the best three-point shooter from the corners in the entire NBA. Can't hit a foul shot, but corner three-point shooting, the guy's Ray Allen. So that's Philadelphia and Boston. And now we have a game 6 there in the greatest rivalry in the sport outside of Celtics-Lakers. Historically, right now the best rivalry is Denver and Minnesota. So that is Sixers-Celtics. And again, I'll get to some of your comments here if you want to leave them in the chat at the end. It's very difficult for me to chat while I'm ranting and raving. So I'm at Celtics-Sixers earlier today. I have the Knicks and Hawks game on my computer, and it was pretty much over right from the start. New York outscores them, 35-22 in the first quarter. Wasn't close after that. And they go on to get the 126, 96, or 97 win, take the 3-2 series lead. And again, Boston looks to be scrambling right now. Think about how fast things change. 48 hours ago, you're talking about the Knicks. Oh, they're down 2-1. There's concern. Mike Brown's job. Mikal Bridges, all these picks. He's useless. Jalen Brunson's dribbling the air out of the ball. Karl Anthony Towns isn't involved enough. And everybody's riding high with Boston. Peyton Pritchard's better than any starter on any other team in the Eastern Conference. Tatum is back to being Tatum. Joe Mazzulla is the second coming of Red Auerbach. Now you fast forward 48 hours later, and New York looks like they're the best team. Boston's got the concerns. So it all happens fast, and it can change fast again. But this version of the Knicks that we've seen the last 2 games looks like the best version of this team all season long, and looks like a version that is capable of beating any team in the Eastern Conference. I don't know if they look like they're capable of beating San Antonio or Oklahoma City. Any team in the Eastern Conference, Knicks, they play like this, are capable of beating them. After game 3, they're down 2-1. People are panicked. They want the lineup changed. They want Mikal Bridges benched. All sorts of talk about Brown's status. Ever since, they've looked dominant. And that continued tonight. I mean, Brunson had by far his best game of the postseason so far. 39 points, 8 assists, 15-23. Alvarado off the bench, 12 points in just 12 minutes. How could you not love his energy? Anunoby, has continued to play great. And that's the other thing that's concerning, like next round against Boston, if it is Boston, the third best player for the Celtics, supposed to be Derrick White. Third best player for the Knicks is OG Anunoby. Anunoby is playing at a ridiculous level. White's been horrible. So even if you said like, all right, well, maybe Boston's got the edge with Tatum and Brown over Karl Anthony Towns and Brunson, you get to that third guy, and it's a blowout right now. Anunoby's been awesome. And all those guys were great. The thing that stuck out to me watching this game, and I don't know about you guys, was Karl Anthony Towns. To me, Karl Anthony Towns was the star. And one of the reasons he was the star was because he was allowed to be the star by Mike Brown as they've altered this offense a little bit. 16 points, 5 of 7 shooting. That doesn't look special. Then he adds 14 rebounds and 6 assists. And the biggest thing with him is they're now just using him correctly. And credit again to Mike Brown for finally doing that. Now, if I was in the coach's seat, I would have done that right at the outset of the season. I've been complaining about it a couple of years now, that they're too reliant on Jaylen Brunson. And again, you look at the box score tonight, and Brunson takes all the shots, scores 39 points. Karl Anthony Towns only takes 7. I don't think that's indicative, though, of how it really played out. Like, they were putting Towns at the elbow. They were running the offense through him. They were allowing him to be the hub. That got him more involved. It makes him more aggressive. He's a really good passer. I remember a couple of years ago, I interviewed Chris Finch when he was still in Minnesota, and Chris Finch compared him to Jokic. And again, that's a little bit much, but he's capable of doing some of the stuff that Jokic is doing as a poor man Jokic, and you've seen that in the last 2 games. And guess what? One of the reasons, and hopefully this is something Brunson understands, is, Brunson's allowing the offense to run through Towns for significant periods. And what does that do? It frees up Brunson to get easier looks. And that's what happens tonight. I think Brunson playing off the ball, in a sense, playing through Towns, helped him to score 39 points. So, the guy takes a lot of crap, but I think that's because he's used wrong. And he's been the best player for them in the postseason so far. The best player for the Knicks, the best player in this series against the Hawks, has been Karl Anthony Towns. And Mike Brown's used him really well the last 2 games. It's opening up the offense for everybody else. And now New York is up 3-2. And honestly, again, Towns, I think, has been the best player in the series. And the other adjustment that you have to, and again, I've got on Mike Brown's case a ton. I do not think Tom Thibodeau should have been fired. But the other adjustment that Mike Brown made was defensively, where they completely took out C.J. McCollum and, basically said, we're going to let everybody else beat us, right? They're basically taking C.J. out of the mix. Let's see if anybody else can hit shots. And C.J. had just 6 points at 3 of 10 from the floor. And at this point, like, Jalen Johnson's not hitting open shots. Jalen Johnson's been one of the bigger disappointments of the postseason. 18 points, 10 rebounds, 6 assists, 7 of 15 tonight. I voted for him second team All-NBA. Right now, he might be one of those guys that just, you have your playoff risers, you have your playoff droppers. He might be a playoff dropper. He might be a regular season player. And there's great audio from a couple of years ago about Bob Myers talking about the difference between regular season players and postseason players, and how the postseason player just can't adjust to the uptick in physicality, the uptick in, focus on the scouting report and focus on taking away what they're good at, and they can't make the adjustments. And maybe Jalen Johnson, I don't want to say it because he's so young, this is his first experience as being the number 1 guy in a playoff team, but right now he looks completely overwhelmed. But, it seems like the pressure of being down 2-1 for the Knicks. I pulled this quote from earlier today because it seems like the pressure of being down 2-1 for the Knicks might have forced them to focus a little bit more. Ian Begley, who covers the team for SNY, he had a quote today where he said he had talked to somebody within the Knicks organization who is happy that this series has not been easy up to this point. Here's the quote, and I happen to agree with it. He said, this is Ian Begley quoting a Knicks source saying, "The person with the Knicks was saying that this can only help them, assuming they get through it. It helps them going into the second round. They felt this was good for this group in particular to be tested in this way. And I actually agree with it. And you guys will remember this. Last year, what happened to the Cleveland Cavaliers? The Cleveland Cavaliers were on the winning end of the most lopsided series in postseason history, where they absolutely crushed the Heat in 4 consecutive games. They weren't tested one time. Then they get to the Indiana series against a Pacers team who had been tested the previous round against Milwaukee. And because Indiana had been tested, I think that played a role in Indiana beating Cleveland. Cleveland walked in. They weren't in postseason mode yet. So I do think it is important to be pushed here a little bit. That doesn't mean it was good for the Celtics to lose tonight. When you're up 3-1, you got to close that sweetheart out. But I think it is good that the Knicks were tested here a little bit against Atlanta. They took an early punch. They responded. Now they're in playoff mode. But this version of the Knicks that we saw the last couple of games, playing through Karl Anthony Towns, getting this version of Karl Anthony Towns, this is a version that can beat any team in the Eastern Conference at least. So the Knicks fans should be really excited after I'm sure they were really bummed out a week ago. And the Eastern Conference is just now an absolute disaster. I mean, take your pick in any series. I could see Atlanta still beating Knicks. I don't think it'll happen. I could see the Sixers beating the Celtics. Certainly Orlando's up 3-1. They're probably going to win that series. And then Cleveland and Toronto, if Donovan Mitchell continues to play like this, Jared Allen continues to play like this, Evan Mobley continues to play like this, Cleveland could lose. And then finally, you got this Spurs game. Spurs blow out the Blazers, 114-95. They end that series. They advance to the second round. They were up by 26 at one point in the second quarter. It was 65-45 at the half. It got a little tight there in the fourth quarter. That's where De'Aaron Fox stepped up. De'Aaron Fox was tremendous in the fourth quarter. He finished overall with 21 points, 8 of 14. Great in the fourth quarter. Looked like the De'Aaron Fox of a couple of years ago who won Clutch Player of the Year. I've talked about how I think he's under more pressure than maybe any player in the the Western Conference, just because he's a max guy. He's the one veteran on this San Antonio team, but he was fantastic. The other thing that stuck out of this one for San Antonio is how many different ways the Spurs could beat you. I mean, Victor Wembanyama, let me check the box score real quick. Took 7 shots. Had 17 points on 7 shots. So you had 5 guys take more shots than Victor Wembanyama. So Wembanyama can score 40 points, as he did, I think, on the second to last day of the season. In the first game of this series, I think Victor had like 34, 35 points. So Victor can do, San Antonio can beat you that way. Or they can beat you where Victor's like, hey, I'm going to take a back seat. I'm going to take 7 shots, but I'll grab 14 rebounds and I'll block 6 shots. And I'll do the defensive stuff. And I'll allow the other guys to dig in. And just so well balanced. I don't know if they finished it off. I remember one point heading into the final month of the season, they had 8 guys averaging double digits. That had never been done in NBA history before. I don't know if Harrison Barnes stayed above that barrier because Harrison Barnes started to come off the bench a little bit towards the tail end of the season. But the point is they can beat you in so many different ways. And it's not even just like who does it. It's, how they do it within a game. I mean, they won 2 games as a team with no experience. They won 2 games on the road in their first postseason experience for most of these guys. 2 games on the road. They win a game without Wemby. Which they did on the road. They got 2 huge second half comebacks, down 15 points. So they fight back. They don't panic. Even more impressive is they both take place on the road. So a maturity beyond their years. And then tonight, they don't play with their food, which is something that typically like younger teams will do. Think about it. The Celtics played with their food tonight. And the Celtics have won a championship, been to multiple finals, been to like 5. This core has been to 5 or 6 conference championships, conference finals. And they play with their food. Yet San Antonio doesn't play with their food. And, that's a sign of a mature team, especially when you see what Oklahoma City is doing, in that Oklahoma City cruises. They sweep through round 1. you got to make sure that not just you get to the conference finals, you get to the conference finals in one piece. Like one of the reasons that, Denver, Minnesota, whatever, they're already done in regards to winning an NBA championship. Like even if Peyton Watson miraculously recovers and decides he wants to play instead of be more focused on his contract, even if Aaron Gordon miraculously recovers, Denver advances, Denver's not going to make it to the finals because they got a 7-game series in round 1. Then they're going to have a 6 or 7-game series in round 2, then do that in the conference finals. So it was important for San Antonio to win today, get some rest, make sure they play the fewest games possible in order to avoid injury. And it seems like they are on a collision course with Oklahoma City in the conference finals. And I can't wait. That's going to be absolutely awesome. As much as you guys know, I'm a huge Jokic fan, and I'm never going to root against him. I'm really nervous about the next 2 games, hopefully 2 games, but it'll be difficult in that San Antonio series to not root for the Spurs, just knowing, like we've already seen Denver and OKC, and again, they gave us a good meeting last year, went 7 games, but San Antonio at full strength going up against OKC based off what they did in the regular season. It's not quite Denver, Minnesota in regards to the Jaden McDaniels stuff, but it's still really fun with Chet and Wemby. There's no love lost there. So that aspect will be awesome. But just really, I think the big takeaway from San Antonio was their maturity over the course of this series. Not even the skill level, which they have in droves. It was the maturity. To close, come from behind a couple of times to close things out, win without Wemby. Just a real mature series out of them. And then finally, and then I'll get to your questions here if you have comments, okay? I'll try and read them best as possible. I'm not going to sit here and stumble reading through paragraphs and paragraphs, okay? So just make it like a concise question or point if you can, if you have something to say. And then I'll look at it here in the chat. But just want to say this very briefly about the Blazers. Just like the Suns last night, even with the loss, they should feel really good about themselves because, one, they found a way, or they found a star in Deni Avdija, right? So the kid's 25 years of age. I voted for him 3rd team All-NBA. He's only going to get better. They have him for a while under contract. He is going to be an absolute stud. So they found a gem. They found a guy, I think, by the time he reaches the prime of his career, if they get him some help, he can either be 1 or 2 on a title contending team. So they have a stud there with Deni Avdija. Then Donovan Clingan, 22 years of age, looks like he is going to be one of the better rebounders in the sport, one of the better defenders in the sport. So they made the right pick, did Joe Cronin, a year ago when he took him in the draft. 2nd season, tremendous job for him. Toumani Camara, defensive stud, one of the best defenders in the sport. I'd love to put him on all defensive team. I did not this year, but now he's also got a little bit of an offensive game to him as well. So Toumani Camara, his development, big for Portland. And then finally, I know Scoot did not play well the last 2 games, but what Scoot did in the first 3 games, you don't do that in the postseason, especially what he was doing on the road, if you're not super talented. So I think after questioning Scoot for basically 2 years, now you can say, see the light at the end of the tunnel here with Scoot Henderson. So a lot of, like, all that stuff should have you excited. Future of Avdija, future of Clingan, future of Camara, future of Scoot. And hopefully the future of Tiago Splitter. If he does not get retained, or if he gets lowballed by this new owner, or for some reason they let him go, I will be very critical because he did a great job considering he's taken over for Chauncey Billups last minute and he's developing all these young guys that got better. He did a spectacular job. All right, so that's recapping all the 3 games that we had here from later tonight. The lead, though, Joel Embiid, and just how great Embiid was. Embiid was absolutely fantastic. So credit to him. It's nice to see him get a moment like this because it cannot, like we see him out there on the court, just like Tatum. It's not easy when you're you're sitting there recovering and recuperating. And the guy, how many guys would have just mailed in the end of the season and said, you know what, I'm just going to get ready for summer. Embiid didn't do that. So credit to him. All right. So we've got Lucas saying Embiid playing like this makes the Sixers a legit contender. I will disagree. As much as I just praised Embiid, I said a little bit earlier in the show, makes him a legit threat to beat Boston, maybe even one more round. Not getting through 4 rounds. You can't do it with Embiid's body. If you waved a magic wand and said, we guarantee health, everybody's going to be healthy, then sure, yes. Embiid, Maxey, Paul George, who I've already said I don't think should be playing because of the cheating. Baseball, you can't play in the postseason. You get caught cheating on drugs that same year. Edgecombe hasn't even really showed up in this series and been big yet, and yet he had one great game. And outside of that, so Embiid's been fantastic. All right, so we've got Brandon saying that Ansi Salah of Atlanta should have been the executive of the year over Brad Stevens. Why do people think Stevens should win the award when all he did was trade off assets? The Vucevic trade also wasn't the best. I agree the Vucevic trade wasn't great. I've been saying Luka Garza should be playing more than Vucevic. I do think that Stevens, though, should have won the award because they got under the tax. They got under the aprons, despite it being very difficult. They lost 4 key players in Luke Cornett, Horford, Porzingis, and Drew Holiday, and they still arguably have the best bench in the entire NBA. Baylor Shireman, they get towards the tail end of the first round. Same thing with Ugo Gonzalez. They get Jordan Walsh in the second round a couple of years ago. They sign Peyton Pritchard to one of the best contracts in the sport. So I think that he actually should have won, but Solid did a great job as well. Absolutely fantastic. And they're going to have another high pick this upcoming year. The one area where I will say, and this isn't on him necessarily, because he wasn't making this pick, I don't believe, but was the Zachary Risashe. They had a number. Imagine how good they would be if it was just any other year or any other pick. Risashe, they don't even play him. He's been absolutely horrible. Who wins Game 6 between Minnesota and Denver? Like, listen, if you think about it from afar, and this is coming from Loyal Variable, appreciate the question. If you think about it from afar, it's like, all right, well, 2 starters are hurt, including their best player. But then think of all, and this is a credit to Tim Connolly. They still have Julius Randle. They still have Jaden McDaniels. They still have Rudy Gobert. They still have Naz Reid. They still have veterans like Mike Conley and Kyle Anderson who are always going to make the right play. They still have Dosunmu, who they picked up at the trade deadline. Okay, he was an absolute stud. And they even have a guy like Bones Highland and Terrence Shannon who can get hot. Shannon got hot at the tail end of last game. And then I saw Bones Highland here in Boston without Anthony Edwards go nuts on the Celtics and win him a game there. From Birdfool, we have, do you think the success of Murray will determine if the series goes 7? So here's what I think. It comes like it's the Stars. They got role player games in Game 5. From Spencer Jones, he was great. Cam Johnson was great. That's the last time you really get the role players stepping up because they always say in the postseason, it's the Stars on the road, right? So now Denver's going to need Jokic and Jamal Murray, hopefully Aaron Gordon, but it doesn't look good. They're going to have to be the guys on the road in Game 6. And then in the Game 7, it's about the Stars again. Very rarely is it the role player in a Game 7. Yeah, I mean, you have your outliers, right? Grant Williams a couple of years ago hit 7 threes against Milwaukee. But usually it's about the Stars in these type of situations. All right, so that appears to be, I mean, there's a lot of other stuff here, but it's difficult to read it all on the fly. I appreciate everybody chiming in. Thanks for joining me. Hope you enjoyed the show. Hope you enjoyed all the games tonight. And what do we have tomorrow real quick? Let me check out the schedule for tomorrow. We'll probably do this again then. Orlando and Detroit. Can't wait for that. Cade's got to bounce back. The Franz Wagner thing is going to be really key there as to whether he is healthy. Cleveland, Toronto. I thought that series was going to stink. And now the series is awesome. Colin Murray Boyles has opened up everybody's eyes. A lot of pressure on Donovan Mitchell, a lot of pressure on James Harden in that one. That's going to be an awesome game. Then the late game, I'm not into that yet. Houston makes it close tomorrow, gets the win. Then it gets real juicy in Game 6 and Game 7 because then it becomes, with all that legacy BS. It went from, LeBron's going to win a first-round series without Luka and Austin Reeves. Then it completely flips on its heels and it's like, LeBron's going to blow a 3-0 series lead. Imagine that, how juicy this show will be. All right, so I appreciate everybody stopping by. Thanks for participating. Pass the word on to any of your buddies who want late night talk. If you don't listen to the program live, you can listen to it taped over on YouTube. Follow along on YouTube at youtube.com/@Termine Radio, at TERMINE Radio. I will write back to you over there if you write something on the YouTube page. Also follow on Twitter at Termine Radio, at TERMINE Radio, and on Instagram and TikTok, which I have to start using more, maybe putting some clips out of the show. That is at Termine NBA. Thanks to Deepak for providing all the suits when I go to the games. I'm sporting them. You can find him online at bydcla.com, bydcla.com. All right, guys, good night, and thanks for stopping by. We'll talk to you tomorrow night on Termine Crashes Out, this YouTube show, and also with Eddie, 4 to 7 Eastern Time on Sirius XM NBA Radio. Good night, everybody.